Hello, I am Kendra Patterson. I am a junior at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and currently I'm studying here in China, Chengdu, China, at the Southwest Minsu University.
So my major is International Studies and my minor is in Chinese. I am currently studying abroad in China through the USAC Chengdu program. And I'm studying abroad in China because I want to improve on my Chinese language skills.
Hello, my name is Ladetta Jackson. My major is modern languages, emphasis in Chinese, and I attended USAC Shanghai program, and I attended it because I needed it to graduate. Also because it's my major and I love the culture.
Hello everyone, my name is Shakarla Muldrow and I go to the University of Louisville in Louisville, Kentucky. I attended to USAC. I went to China, specifically Chengdu, China, and originally I wanted to do just one semester, spring of 2017, but I decided to extend my program to one summer session in fall of 2017. So I was technically there for like a year, you can say. And the reason why I chose China was because I wanted to like learn my roots, kind of. I'm half Asian and half black, so I decided to explore my Asian roots. So I decided to learn Chinese like formally in college, and I was like, might as well like go abroad and like go to China and it's like see what it's like and stuff like that.
My application process was fairly easy because my university took me step by step to go through it. Comparing to the pricing of my current tuition, it wasn't very dramatic of a difference, but I did need to seek out different scholarships and different resources to ensure that I can be comfortable here in China in case something did happen or say that I did need to go home.
Applying to this program wasn't really that hard for me. The hardest part was finding a program that fit my needs. After that, it was a very easy application process, and the staff was very accommodating to my questions and requests.
It was very accessible because the current college that I attend has a stay abroad office that specializes in helping individuals apply for certain programs.
Yes, I actually was thinking about going abroad ever since I went to college. I was like, man, I really want to go to a different country since I'm in college. There's all these new opportunities, blah, blah, blah. So I talked to our study abroad office and they were really, really helpful. They just asked me where do I want to go, what do I want to study, and then they said you should go to our website and see what kind of countries University of Louisville was affiliated with and what kind of programs I can choose from. So that was pretty helpful. It helped me figure out what I want to go, where I want to go and what I want to do. And then once I figured out which program I wanted to, I chose USAC just because, one, it was really cheap compared to the other programs that I was researching on. And there is one program that was $14,000 per semester compared to USAC, which was only $6,000 per semester. I was like, yeah, I'm going to USAC because I'm not about to spend $14,000 per semester, and I already spend that much here in the States. So I was like, might as well go to the cheaper route. Personally, I don't think I got enough information about the city or about the country when I was abroad, just because it's like that saying where it's one thing to if you read it in a textbook, it's another when you're actually there and living it. I read whatever that was on the US government website, and then I looked online and I looked at past blog posts from alumni that been to China. I mean, they explain the common cultural differences between Western and Eastern cultures and stuff like that, but it's another thing where you're actually seeing it and experiencing it. Perfect example, squat toilets. It's a thing there, it's everywhere. Granted, they're changing more Western toilets in public places like malls and movie theaters and stuff like that, but most places they still use squat toilets, and it took me a while to get used to. Trying to be like explicit here, but if I had to use number two, like, you have to squat there for a second, not just for like, oh, I'm just gonna pee and call it a day. No, you gotta squat there for a second. And then another thing is like, bring your own like napkins or tissues everywhere, because like if you were to go to like a restaurant, maybe not like 5-star or even 4-star restaurants, but just like a casual like mom and pop shop, they don't usually have like napkins, so you just have to bring your own tissues or whatever wherever you go. So that was something that I had to learn pretty quickly, especially like if I'm eating like something that's like super like has a lot of sauce or whatever. I just had to like, oh, I forgot my napkin, so I'm just like making a mess.
But overall, my experience in China has been great. It's very different from the States, but my experience here has been worth it for me, going from my ups, from my downs. Some days, of course, I have China days where it's like it would be easier to be home, but then you step back and you realize why you're here. You're here to learn the language. You're here to meet people from different cultures, and ultimately, you're here to grow as an individual in a international setting. For me, I have experienced a lot of different things, of course, as a black female, a black woman here abroad. A lot of people are not familiar with interacting with many people of African American descent, so it's been interesting to kind of introduce myself in that way and help them kind of understand my origins, and at the same time respecting and getting to understand theirs as well. So I've had, many different experiences with that, and in having those experiences, I've also experienced getting more comfortable in my skin and kind of realizing where I stand overall in the greater realm of the world, outside of being in the United States, coming here and having my identity questioned, or people just generally interested in who I am. And of course that comes with that is also people that are very ignorant to a point that they just don't understand and don't have any information or any experience with people that are African American or black in general. So yes, you get those questions, or yes, people rubbing on your skin, but you have to really step back and realize that, is this coming with malicious intent? Yes, it is in many ways ignorant, but you're a person that's out in an international setting with people that haven't interacted with certain individuals.
So about my experiences here, it's been generally a very good experience. My language skills has definitely improved. It's really funny though, or kind of frustrating in some sense. As a person of color, I definitely have been thought of as not American. Most of the times I interact with Chinese people, they think that I'm also Chinese, and when I try to tell them I'm not Chinese, they're kind of like apprehensive, or like they try to tell me that I'm wrong and that I'm definitely Chinese. And then I'd have to explain to them that I'm not Chinese at all, that I was born in the Philippines and then I grew up in the States. So that's been a really kind of frustrating experience. These experiences have taught me that representation is definitely important when it comes to things like when you're a tourist, or when you're studying abroad, when you're working abroad, because in places outside of the U.S. mostly ethnicity and nationality is mostly seen as the same thing when they're not.
I faced the challenge of, financial issues. I come from a single parent household, so I had to get a job to fund myself, and I had to apply to quite a few scholarships. Yeah, I feel like I had quite enough information about the country I was visiting, but then again, this wasn't my first time going. But if I said it about the first time I went, I wish I knew more information about people of color going there, because this is the second time I went abroad, and both times I was one of the few African Americans. The first time I went, I was one of 2 African Americans there, and the second time only one African American. There were no other ones. And I guess in terms of that, I wish I had more information about how were perceived, as in like people of colors. It was quite some hardships. It was hard being there and being one of the two or the only African American there. So the first time I went, it was me and my friend. We were both African Americans. At first, other Chinese people, they would come to us, they would like ask us to take photos with them. I'd ride subways, they'd touch my skin. I had an individual touch my skin and go like this to check if it was dirt. That was something. I've had people sneak and take photos of me, and I've had people touch my hair. There's no such thing as personal space there when you're a foreigner. And then me and my friend at the time, we had a problem with people believing that we were American. The older Asians there, they didn't believe that America had races other than white people with blonde hair and blue eyes. So one of the security guards who worked at the place that I was staying at, he would constantly ask us, where are you from? And we'd tell him, oh, we're American. He would be like, no, America doesn't have black people. He's like, we're African. And then like everywhere I went, people would call me African. And I didn't truly mind because I am African American. But the fact that they denied, I guess, the fact that I was American was kind of hard. It was fun nonetheless, though. It was a learning experience.
When I first arrived there, it took, so for spring semester, we had a field trip before we actually went into mainland China. So we went to Hong Kong, and that was kind of a transition between like Western culture and Eastern culture, because Hong Kong was a British colony up until like 1997, so a lot of their mannerisms and cultures are very westernized, but it still had a hint of Eastern culture. People still get confused, like if Hong Kong is part of mainland or is it considered mainland. I was like, it's a really tough question, but like if you ever visit Hong Kong, you can see like it's not mainland. So that was a good transition between like the States and then to actually mainland China. So after our field trip, we went to our city in Chengdu, China, which is in Sichuan province. It was definitely different. Like you can tell once you landed in the airport, you were like, I'm in mainland China. Instant culture shock, So a few weeks later, like after I got settled down, get my classes rolling and stuff like that, I started to notice like a really big difference between like Eastern culture and Western culture, besides like the obvious. Their thinking styles, their ideology, just a lot of things were a little different. And it was actually pretty interesting to see how the reactions of people within our group, like there's some people didn't take it so well, like it took them a long time to actually like get immersed into, it's called Eastern culture. So that was, I wouldn't say funny, but it was like really interesting to watch, like me being a psych major. It was actually pretty funny. I think I was eating lunch one day after class. So we went to a Uyghur restaurant. They are Chinese people, but their religion is Muslim. Anyways, so I was sitting there and it was like the four of us. So it was me, my friend who is Asian American, and my other friend, she was Caucasian. And well, actually two Caucasians. So there was four of us. So we were eating, and then the people that were across from us tried to get our attention. And we were like, oh, hi, try to be friendly and just, make small talk. And one of the guys were like, he was asking me, where was I from? And I said, oh, I'm American, I'm from the States, blah, 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 blah. And he said, really? He looked very, confused. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's just who I am. And he was like, really? You look Filipino? I was like, huh. That's the first time someone said I look Filipino. Even in the States, I don't know why I get this a lot. They said I either look Hawaiian, maybe I look like Pacific Islander, never get the right ethnicity. And then I tell them, I was like, oh, I'm just half black and half Asian. They I was like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, I know. So I think it's just funny. They always like say all the ethnicities besides the one I am, so that's pretty funny.
I will say that it is important to provide safe spaces to provide perspectives or to just release and vent. But overall, for me, it would make my experience more comfortable to have different spaces where we can talk about, have conversation about this more. But in reality, when you're back home, there's not a lot of safe spaces provided for you. So you have to find your own safe space, and you have to create that yourself, whether that's journaling, whether that's going to the religion that you believe in, whether that's talking to friends, individuals, or just talking to yourself, writing it down, just clearing your mind and finding things that help you to get what's on your heart out. Because definitely being abroad is something new. You're thrown out of what you're normally, your daily routine, your things that you're normal to, being people you're used to being around. But I would say it's overall worth it. And if you are a person of color, yes, study abroad. Study abroad. It's changed my life. It's changed my point of view on many things.
So I studied abroad in China once, and I was the only person of color in my study abroad group, and I was kind of frustrated at how the other people in my study abroad group would make offhanded comments about Asian culture and Chinese culture in general, like making fun of how whatever meat we were eating was dog, or that I was, since I was American, but I was Asian, I was basically white. So I think that it's a good idea for study abroad programs to have staff that are trained to handle situations that people of color may experience while they're abroad. Also, prior to going abroad, I think that it's a good idea for the study abroad office to set up some kind of orientation for everyone going abroad about experiences of people of color and just different experiences in general while abroad.
I believe that there should be some type of discussion group put together for people of color to talk to each other, because people of color don't really go abroad like that. Yeah, I wish I had from my culture that I could relate to and I could talk to. There needs to be some type of group of strength, especially since the first time I went abroad, I had hardship because I got tired of the people looking at me, I got tired of people touching me, keeping their space away from me, and I hit a moment of depression, and I had to come back, and I had to go through counseling actually, because I wasn't satisfied with where I was at. I wasn't satisfied attending college. I wasn't the same when I came back. So my mom was worried about me going back to China, this time around. I didn't feel strong anymore. The person, I was an outgoing person who loved to talk, and just from going out there and being the only person of color, being treated differently, changed, I guess, the way I thought I was. I was no longer talkative. I was more to myself. If any person of color is going abroad, I would recommend that they prepare themselves mentally. They watch some videos. Prepare to be probably the only person of color or one of the few. I can only say to talk to your family as much as possible, because the moment you stop talking to them and you start feeling alone in a foreign place, especially when you have culture shock, depression is something that can come easily.
I believe that, there should be some kind of environment or group where people of color can feel supported or safe. Actually, in the fall semester, there was a girl, she decided to host weekly sessions, talk about our experiences and how we feel about the program, about each other, and stuff like that. I thought that was really helpful, because there's some people, they were they didn't have an outlet to talk to, again, we're in China, so a lot of social media was blocked. Again, what she did was really helpful. You know, it was very informal, but you know, sometimes you just need somebody to talk to. Just me being away for a year, you don't see a lot of people of color that go abroad. Like, really important to have that kind of support for people of color so they're not alone, you know? So, one thing I would say, just like people of color that are abroad, I would say just like, you know, stick together and like, because everyone's going experience this like all at the same time. So I would suggest like, don't try to pull each other down, because that's just being mean and rude. Like, why would you do that to somebody? You know, everyone's going through the same thing. Wish I was told was they do a lot of staring, especially people like Caucasian or people of color. Like me, like my complexion, I actually fit in because to them I look like one of the minorities that live in China. So I didn't get a lot of stares besides me having short hair. Anyways, so my Caucasian friends and my friends that are like people of color, they always got stared at because, especially the city I was in, they don't see a lot of foreigners in their daily life. So a lot of them would stare or point, and they didn't find it rude because they were just trying to figure out what they are, who they are. It's like, why are you different color? Why is your hair blonde or brunette? Why is your eyes blue? Like, it was kind of comical actually. But that was another thing, just like the stares. Like I didn't experience that personally because again I fit in. So I was like, I'm just gonna watch them stare at you guys, and I'm just gonna sit here because they think I'm a native. So cool. So since I went to China, there's a lot of like stereotypes against China or just about it, you know, like, oh, they eat dog or like something or whatever. And I'm just like, all these stereotypes. Like, one thing I would do, especially if you're going abroad to a different country, is do some research on the country. Like, besides going to like the US government, like all kinds of stuff, just like read some blogs that people have been abroad before, like a couple blog posts on Instagram or on Facebook or whatever. And I always like how they explain their experience. You know, they always try to say like, this is what I've gone through, but it doesn't always, you know, apply to every single person. And then like, what do you expect when you get there? You know, so when you arrive, you're not surprised, like, oh, this is how they are, or this is how they do things. Like, you know, just do some research besides, like, you know, outside sources besides the U.S. government. One advice I would tell people is, like, try to get close to some of the locals. You know, like, there was a saying that a friend of mine always said, it was like, follow the locals. Always follow what the locals are doing, you know, because so you won't stand out as much. But you don't want to be that foreigner in a group of, like, you know, 20,000 people that doesn't get it, you know. Like, just follow like what the crowd is doing, you know. Like, always be observing. You're in a foreign country, rules there are different. I would just like sit back and observe and see what everyone else is doing before you act. If you're ever thinking about going abroad or even a different state for school for a semester, I would totally go for it. If you're being pulled back just because financially, or you're just nervous, or maybe you're thinking like, this isn't for me, if I can do it, or I can survive on my own, put those worries to rest. I would just go for it. Like, for real, just do it. Like, it can't hurt you, but it'll definitely help you.